Yes.
Okay, good. All right, so today is chapter 62, Business Operating Systems. Okay, and some of our learning objectives today are, of course, we're going to learn how to pronounce, define, and spell the key terms, discuss the elements of the operating procedure manual, discuss computer applications in the dental office, and discuss record keeping, including the types of practice records and files. Discuss the guidelines to the efficient filing and describe how to use these filing systems: alphabetical, color coded, numerical, which is cross reference, chronological, and electronic. So it it all depends what type of office you work for. You will have different types of filing system. It doesn't necessarily mean that where you go it's going to be alphabetical. Sometimes it's color coded. Sometimes is by numbers or chronological. Okay. So efficient and effective business systems can increase productivity, decrease stress, increase patient confidence. So, of course, everybody wants to be in an office where everybody knows what they're doing, right? You don't want to go into an office where everybody's doing their own thing, nobody has any type of communication, stuff gets lost, stuff doesn't get answered, etc. The role of the business assistant. So, the role of this person is greeting patients and answering the telephone, scheduling patients, managing patient records, managing accounts receivable and payable, managing the recall and inventory control systems, overseeing and monitoring practice marketing activities, managing payroll, presenting and making financial arrangements, and overseeing insurance submissions. So basically, it depends where you work. They might have like one person that's in charge of all these things, but I will let you know that most of these duties belong to the front desk. So you might have one person at the front desk, or you might have various people at the front desk, and they know how to do they know how to do financial arrangements like payment plans for treatment. They submit claims to the insurance. They schedule the patients. They're the first people that the patients will see when they walk into the office. They answer the telephones. They will basically manage patient records. They have to make sure that they put together the patient charts for new patients, or when a patient hasn't been in the office, they have to do an updated medical history and updated paperwork, basically. So the operating procedural manual. This communicates the policies and procedures for staff to follow. The objective or purpose of the manual: office communications, staff policies, employment policies, office records, Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, so HIPAA. Everybody's heard of HIPAA, right? Occupational Safety and Health Administration, which is OSHA, and they regulate to make sure that the offices are complying with safety and with chemicals and all that stuff. Clinical procedures and professional organizations. So like I just mentioned about HIPAA compliance, okay, so the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act of 1996 was adopted to enhance and protect the rights of patients. The dentist must follow a specific format when putting HIPAA policies into practice. The dental staff must be informed of specific security and confidentiality issues. HIPAA-related training of existing dental staff must be reinforced continuously. Okay, so basically what this means is that the information, the personal information of the patient is protected. So let's say somebody walks into the office. Let's say it's a good looking person and you want to find out about this person. But if this person is not your patient, you are not allowed to go into their records and look up where they live, their telephone number, any of that stuff, because that would be a HIPAA violation. And people have done that and they have gotten fired. Okay, so HIPAA privacy compliance list. Areas that must be included in a procedure manual. Know the law and HIPAA regulations. Know the requirements of your state privacy laws. Adopt or develop the required forms to put into action privacy policies and procedures. Train the dental staff on privacy policies and procedures, and designate a privacy officer and a contact person to receive complaints. Usually that will be the office manager. Notify patients of the policies by posting and distributing a notice of privacy practice, and obtain written permission by the patient's acknowledgement of receipt of the notice of privacy practice. And make sure the policies and procedures are fully implemented and up to date. Can you guys mute your mics? I can hear somebody in the background. Sorry. Personnel manual. Personnel topics include job description for each employee, the details regarding pay periods and working hours, information concerning employee benefits such as paid holidays, vacation, and sick leave. Provisional employment, maternity leave if your office offers that, disciplinary measures, sexual harassment, and termination. So some practices use a commercially prepared manual, whereas others customize their own personal manual. It is helpful to use a ring binder, which allows pages to be added or deleted as office policy is updated or information becomes obsolete. To prevent miscommunication among staff, make sure that each new employee reviews the office manual during the first week of employment and that all employees continue to review any information that is added. So we're going to talk about computer applications in the dental offices. This is very important because sometimes you will be working front desk. So specific applications that the computer can handle in a dental practice include appointment scheduling, electronic patient records, word processing, networking and marketing, bookkeeping tasks, database management, billing and collection, patient ledger, and processing of insurance claim. So of course, appointment scheduling, because how else are you going to have your patients come in? Most offices now are doing electronic patient records because they're trying to get rid of the traditional paper charts because they take up too much space, and those charts need to be maintained for a long time. Once a chart is archived because the patient hasn't been in the office in maybe 5 years, those things need to be kept. So eventually, if you're in an office that has a lot of patients or an office that's been, going for a long time, they'll need like some type of storage room to store all those archived charts. Characteristics.
Miss Jill, I have a question. I'm
Sure.
sorry to interrupt. I have a question about the records. Who will be the person doing or putting the records information on the computer? The business assistants also?
Correct. And sometimes, remember I said sometimes the business assistant will be just the front desk. So they will be the ones that input all the patient information in the computer at the beginning. If it's information like patient's insurance information, personal information, medical history, the business assistant does that, or the front desk. Did that answer your question?
Okay, thanks. Yes, thank you.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so characteristics of the computer. The computer consists of two main components: hardware that houses the wires, transistors, and circuits in response to a specific set of instructions, and then there's the software, which introduces the data to the hardware to execute a list of instructions. So software is basically the programs that the computer has. A general purpose computer requires the following components: memory. It needs a central processing unit, which is also known as a CPU, a mass storage device, input device, and output device. Okay, so cybersecurity. Dental practices are becoming more vulnerable to cybersecurity threats. Most common causes of data breach include theft, hacking, unauthorized access, lost records, improper disposal of records. So with the improper disposal of records, I will let you know that when you have a patient and let's say you're presenting a treatment plan for them, because you're an assistant, you will be doing that most of the time. If let's say you made a mistake on the treatment plan and you need to print a new one, don't throw that treatment plan inside the regular trash. You're supposed to have some type of bin usually in the office to where You throw those papers out and then they shred them, and a company usually comes and picks them up, because what happens is if you dispose of that paper that has, most of the time has the patient's date of birth, their name, sometimes their social security number on it, etc. If you dispose of that in regular trash and somebody goes through your trash, that patient's information can be stolen and can be used by somebody else. Okay. Each computer must have a. Each computer must have.
I'm sorry about that you were saying about the bus. Would that be also if the office don't have it shredded to get rid of the paper, or that's just for the manager or the dentist to check why we threw it away?
It will vary from office to office. Where I used to work at, we used to have a specific trash can, and that trash can was inside the doctor's and the manager's office. So anything, any type of paper that or documentation that had patient information on it, we would throw it in that trash can, and then at the end of the week, all that stuff would be shredded. And then the shredded paper, usually a company will come and they'll pick it up and they'll take it away.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, each computer must have a firewall. We know that a firewall is like an antivirus type of thing, so that nobody can hack into your system. An operating system, hardware, and antivirus software that is up to date and secure. Okay, so in overseeing financial activities, the responsibility of the clinical assistant or the business assistant is overseeing financial activities the responsibility of the clinical assistant or the business assistant? Yes or no?
Question? Can you repeat the question?
Yes. Yes. Is overseeing financial activities the responsibility of the clinical assistant or the business assistant?
The business assistant.
Correct. Very good. Okay. So now we're moving on to record keeping. Okay. The maintenance of adequate records is one of the business assistant's most important responsibility. Because so much information is maintained in either a hard copy or an electronic file, the office must decide what types of records and filing system best suits the needs of the practice. The maintenance of accurate and complete records is a sign of quality care. So it's very important that you always have updated information of the patient, that all their paperwork is in their chart, either whether it's a paper chart or it's an electronic file, everything has to be submitted. Okay. Types of records and files. Patient dental records, okay, and this is basically the patient's chart. It includes the patient registration, medical and dental history form, examination findings, a diagnosis and treatment plans, a record of all treatment provided, and radiographs. And this is what you're usually going to pick up. If it's an actual paper chart, you will pick it up from a bin, you will call your patient in, you'll bring them to the back, and inside that chart, this is what all the stuff that's going to be in there. Okay, patient financial records. The patient statement or ledger, including all of the individual patient's financial accounts. And I will let you know that the patient's ledger is usually in the computer. This is where you're going to find if how much they owe for a treatment, if they put any money down, if they owe money, all of that stuff will be found in the patient's ledger. Okay, practice business records. Include, but not limited to, the following: accounts receivable records, practice expenses awaiting payment, expense records, payroll correspondence, canceled checks and bank statements. Oh.
I'm sorry, you're breaking up.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Payroll records, business correspondence, canceled checks and bank statements, records of income and expenses, financial statements, tax records and possibly corporate records, computer printout of practice reports, and personnel records. So those are the business records. Okay. What is another term that is used for a patient's statement? Remember, I said that most of this is going to be on the computer. What is the correct term for that? Anybody?
Ledger.
Yes, correct. Ledger. Good job.
Ledger. Yes. I knew it was something like that.
All right, so basic filing methods. Alphabetical filing. This is the easiest and most commonly used system. Items are filed in straight alphabetical, ABC order in accordance with the basic rules of indexing. I will let you know that I did work a very long time ago in a small private practice, and we used to have alphabetical filing. This is what happens. Not everybody knows their alphabet correctly. So even though it's supposed to be ABC, common sense, a lot of people don't have that. So sometimes it's going to be hard for you to actually find the charts where they belong. And this is with any type of filing method, not just alphabetical. So there's color coding filing, and this has adhesive tabs that combine colors and letters are used to indicate the first two letters of the patient's last name. I've never came across this before. I've worked where there was, like I said, alphabetical filing and numerical filing. So numerical filing, a number is assigned to each chart or document. In straight numeric filing, all items are filed in strict 1 to 3 order. Commonly used in large group practices, it is necessary to maintain a cross-reference file. So the last office that I worked for about 10 years, we used to do numerical filing. Pretty straightforward. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so forth. However, when you start getting to the big numbers, like like 10,000, 12,000, people start to not know what order the numbers go either. So it doesn't make it any easier. Okay. Chronological filing.
So that's when you use the alphabetic order then?
No,
when you start getting those numbers, you may say.
No. If it's numbers, it's numbers. If it's alphabet, it's alphabet. Each office, any office that you go to, they will have their own filing system. It's just, it just depends how big the office is. If the office is a private office and it's not that big, usually they will use alphabetical filing because it's easy. But if it's an office like that is a corporation, I'm not gonna say what company I worked for, but it's a corporation and they have hundreds of offices, then they use chronological filing because they see tens and thousands of patients. Okay, so chronological filing, commonly divided into months and maybe further subdivided into days of the month, may be used for the recall system or as a reminder system for miscellaneous tasks such as routine maintenance, which must be performed at specific times during the year. Other special files such as cross-reference files, inventory control files, and short notice appointment lists may be maintained for various purposes. I've never seen an office with chronological filing, but it doesn't mean that you won't. And electronic filing. It's stored on the computer's hard drive. They should additionally be stored on a zip drive or CD, and to keep track of these files, label each unit with a subject name or number. So the guidelines to efficient filing, because when you work at a dental office, you're not just going to have one person that files. Everybody files. The assistants, the front desk, the business assistant, anybody. Filing is the act of classifying and arranging records to be preserved safely and retrieved quickly when needed. Keep the filing system simple. Label folders clearly. Leave adequate working space within each file. Label shelves or drawers. Use out guides and pre-sort. active and inactive files. So active files are the files of patients who have been seen recently, usually within the past 2 to 3 years, and these are maintained in the areas of easiest accessibility. So most offices are going to have, if they're a big office, they're going to have like a filing room. And this is where they're going to keep the active files, which means it's patients that they come every 6 months for their regular visit, or they're having some type of treatment done, they have fillings, crowns, etc., that they come frequently. Now, inactive files are files of patients who have not been seen in the last 3 years. These files are maintained in the less convenient area, but can be accessed if needed. And like I said, depending on the size of the office, those inactive files, they need to be kept for a certain amount of time. So you need to have some type of storage room or some type of area where it's just designated for that, because in case, let's say somebody hasn't been there in 4 years and their file is inactive, sometimes you need to retrieve it for whatever reason.
So even though we have them on the system in the computer, we are still going to save those inactive files.
Yes, because because on the computer, sometimes you just have what they've had done, what insurance they had when they were a patient there, and if they paid anything or if they owe anything. Now, if you have an actual physical chart, you as an assistant are responsible for writing notes in those charts, and you'll write the colors of the fillings that you used or the crowns, etc. Any notes of anything that was said between doctor and patient, any of that stuff. That stuff you, if unless they specifically have electronic charting or electronic records, you're not going to find any of that stuff on the computer.
Okay, so that will depend on the office.
Correct. Okay, so purge tabs. These are color-coded purge tabs that make it easier to sort records into active and inactive categories. For example, at a patient's first visit in 2016, a red 2016 tag is placed on the folder. At the first visit in 2017, a green 2017 tag is placed over the previous one. When it is time to sort out the charts for all patients not seen since 2016, it is easy to go through the file and quickly identify those folders still labeled with only a red 2016 tag. This might be true. I've in all the years that I worked as a dental assistant, I never saw this. And trust me, this would have been much easier for us. Record protection and confidentiality. HIPAA electronic safeguards. The dental office must have physical and technical safeguards to ensure the protection and confidentiality of the patient's personal information. Protecting electronic files. Back up all files. Keep two files, one in the office and a second outside. What happens when, let's say you're working on some type of schoolwork and you're not continuously saving it, and you don't have your computer set up where if you click out of the program by mistake, it saves it automatically? What happens to your work? Let's say you were doing an essay and you're on page 6 of your essay and you're not constantly hitting save. What happens if, let's say, the light goes off and your laptop turns off?
I will get a heart attack.
Exactly. What happens to your work?
Oh, they're gone. It disappeared.
It's gone. Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the importance of backing up all the files on each business day. And let's talk about the keeping 2 sets of backup files, one in the office and a second set outside the office. What happens if, God forbid, the office catches on fire? What's going to happen to your files if you only have them at the office?
They're going to be destroyed. We're all going to be lost.
Exactly. Everything gets destroyed. So that's why it's important to have a second set outside of the office.
So who will be the one carrying that second set? The dentist or us or the business assistant?
They'll assign somebody to that. If they even do that, they'll assign somebody to that.
Okay.
Protecting paper files. Records are protected in correct file cabinets and are properly closed each business day. So let's say you're in a small office and what you have is filing cabinets. Those filing cabinets usually get locked at the end of the night so that nobody can access them. You don't know if somebody's going to break into the office, etc., and they're going to take people's information. Okay, so learning objectives, appointment scheduling, inventory, budget, and record keeping. So describe the process of scheduling appointments for maximum productivity, identify the types of preventative recall systems, and state the benefits of each. Discuss the management of inventory system, explain the components of the dental supply budget, discuss the record keeping necessary for repairing and maintaining dental equipment. Okay, so which filing system is the easiest to use according to the PowerPoint slides?
Alphabetic order.
Alphabetic.
Correct, alphabetical order. Good. Okay, so remember what we said about active and inactive patients? If a patient was seen in 2013, would that patient be considered active or inactive?
Inactive.
Inactive, correct.
Inactive.
Why?
Because it's
Has
been
it
more
been
than
more
3
than
years.
5 years?
Correct. It's been more than 3 years. Good.
Mhm.
It depends. It'll depend on your office. Usually 3 years means inactive. Some offices will say 5. Okay, so it all depends. All right, so moving on to appointment scheduling. Scheduling is most effective when one person is responsible for all appointment planning and all entries in the appointment system. This responsibility is given to the business assistant, but in a larger practice, an appointment clerk might be involved. So like I said, most of the time, the business assistant, some of those roles are going to be passed on to the front desk, not necessarily the business assistant. If you have an office where you have 2 or 3 front desk girls, most of them will be responsible for setting appointments. Also, you as an assistant, sometimes you will set appointments in the back while you're in the operatory, while you still have your patient in the chair, because some doctors will require this. I used to work with a doctor that she would always tell us, don't ever let a patient walk out of your room without the next appointment. Okay, goals of efficient appointment scheduling. So efficient appointment scheduling means that the patients are seen on time. So if a patient's appointment is at 4 o'clock, the patient by 4:10, 4:15 should have already been called to the back. That would be the ideal thing in the real world. Does it happen all the time? Not really. We can't say yes, depending on the size of the office and how many patients you see and how efficient the appointment scheduling is by the front desk. The patient load is well balanced throughout the day. So you will come across doctors that they want a certain type of template when patients are scheduled. So for example, where I worked, the doctors would have 5 columns on their schedule. So the first 2 columns were for big work, production, like crowns, bridges, root canals, fillings, etc. The next 2 columns would be for new patient exams and periodic exams. Periodic exams means patient recall. That means that they were here a year ago. They're here for their yearly checkup and cleaning. And then the 5th column would be for emergencies, and emergencies would mean for people that walked in, like they're having a toothache, etc. So those were the 5 columns. Okay, so goals of efficient appointment scheduling again. Okay, the dentist and the staff can make good use of their time. Some offices, like if you work at a private office, they will close out a whole hour of the day, and that usually will be for lunchtime. When you work for a big corporate office, you don't get that time off. You have to eat in between patients, or if one team member goes to eat, then the other team members will back up that person, and then you guys will take turns. Computerized or manual scheduling. Appointment control can be managed with a computerized scheduling system or manually with a traditional appointment book. I will let you know right now that you're probably not going to see a appointment book anymore. That was used very, very long time ago. Many offices now are updated and they use a computerized system, which is much easier. Regardless of the system used, the basic understanding and guidelines are the same. The appointment book format must be selected, the day must be outlined, and patients must be scheduled efficiently. The appointment book. If a manual appointment book is used, it must be selected to ensure sufficient space for all necessary entries and to facilitate the efficient scheduling of patients for the dental practice. The most efficient format is the so-called week at a glance design, and ideally the book should lie flat when fully opened. If an electronic appointment system is selected, you have the advantage of selecting a software program that will make the business assistant's job much easier. Production goals can be set by controlling when and where specific procedures are performed. And this is what I was talking about. The first two columns of my doctor's schedule was for what we call production, which production means what is actually bringing in money to the office. Okay? And then the following additional options can be included: an auto scheduler, patient record, and daily appointment screen. Okay, so the guidelines for scheduling is units of time. They can be 10, 15, or 30 minutes, depending on the dentist's preference. When I used to work at the dental office, for big cases, let's say it was a crown, we would schedule for about an hour and a half to 2 hours, depending if it was a crown that you needed a root canal and all that stuff. If it was a bridge, we would schedule for about 3 hours. For periodic exams and for new patient exams, we would schedule in 30-minute intervals. Okay, the key to efficient patient scheduling is to schedule patients according to the time necessary for their complete procedure, rather than trying to fit all procedures into a standard 30-minute or 1-hour formula. If you try to schedule big cases in an hour, you're going to be behind the whole day, because while you're doing a procedure for an hour, the other assistants are going to have to see other patients, and then that's how you'll be behind, because there's not enough time scheduled for that one patient that needed the let's say 2 or 3 hours. If a 15-minute time unit is used in the practice and a patient must be scheduled for a procedure that will take approximately 40 minutes to complete, the dentist should request that this patient be given a 3-unit appointment, which means what they'll do is they'll drag the appointment down and they'll make it longer. So yes, exactly that. Okay, columns per day. Like I was saying before, my doctor used to have 5 columns on his day. The appointment scheduling for each day will be assigned to a separate column designated specifically for each operator, with each column representing an operatory or treatment area. So where I worked, each doctor had a different color. So let's say one was blue, one was green, one was pink, one was yellow, etc. They would all have their schedules differently. So when you would click the F1, F2, F3 buttons, that would turn to each different doctor's schedule. So to make most efficient use of everyone's time, many dentists prefer to use several treatment areas simultaneously. This preference is reflected in the appointment book when one column represents each operatory. So with my doctor, because we used to have 5 columns with the emergency column and 4 assistants, each assistant would have a patient at the same time. And then the doctor would rotate from room to room depending on what was being done with each patient. Outlining the appointment schedule. The business assistant should go through the appointment schedule several months in advance and outline basic information. The 4 basic elements to be outlined are office hours. What time do we open? What time do we close? What time is our lunch hour? And what days are we off? Okay, buffer time. It's emergency patients and short appointments such as denture adjustments or suture removal. So this is what we called the emergency column, the 5th column. It was for patients who walked in, a person said, oh, my denture is bothering me, I need an adjustment. All those patients would be placed in that 5th column, the buffer time. Okay, meetings. So dental and staff meetings and holidays. Making appointment book and appointment card entries. All entries must be accurate, legible, complete, and made in pencil. And this is only if you're talking about an actual appointment book. Entries must be clear, written so they are easy to read, no chicken scratch. Manual entries must be made in pencil that is sufficiently legible to read, yet erasable if necessary. You guys have ever heard the term pencil me in? It means exactly that. Put me on your schedule, but with a pencil because you might have to take me off. Entries must be complete and accurate so it is clear who is scheduled and for what treatment. The appointment, special. Oh, can you guys hear me?
Hello? No, I'm breaking up. Oh, you breaking up.
I think my Wi-Fi cut off, but I think it's back on. Can you guys hear me or am I cutting off?
Yes, now I can hear you. I didn't catch the question.
What was the
I can
last?
hear you.
What was the last thing you guys heard?
You just nothing.
Book. Book. Appointment book.
Oh, okay.
I don't know
So
if you were
generally,
asking something.
no, I wasn't. I wasn't asking anything. I was just going down the PowerPoint. Can
Mhm.
you guys hear me, or am I cutting off?
I can hear you.
In and out.
Okay, so generally the appointment book entries includes the patient's name, the patient's business and home telephone numbers, an abbreviated code for the treatment to be provided, the length of the appointment, special notations such as whether the patient is new or requires pre-medication. That is very important. You should always put on your chart at the bottom, like right under the patient's name, if they need to be pre-medicated or not. Special considerations for scheduling. Difficult procedures such as extensive crown and bridge preparation, implants, or surgeries require careful scheduling, especially if the patient has been pre-medicated. These type of procedures often are scheduled in the morning when the dentist staff are at their highest energy levels. And why do you think that is? Why would you want to schedule your big long appointments in the beginning of the day?
Because they take
Because you just started your shift. So you have
Yes,
energy.
and you will be
Exactly.
tired. You don't want to be.
Yes, because they take up a long time. You just started your day, so you should be full of energy. You don't want to leave a 3-hour procedure for the end of your shift. You don't want to do that because you're going to be exhausted already. You're just going to want to be going home and you're not going to put your all into it. Okay, so scheduling almost must be engineered so as to allow for efficient use of idle time for greater productivity. Daily schedule rules. Do not schedule too many difficult procedures close together. What happens if you do that? What do you think happens? If you schedule too many difficult procedures close together.
something could go wrong in one of the earlier ones, and then you're gonna have to, reschedule one of the other ones.
Correctly. And you're going to burn out quickly if you're doing all the difficult ones at the same time or one after the other after the other. Okay. Allow time for treatment area and cleanup. Educate the patients about treatment times. So usually when I used to have a patient, let's say a patient comes in for a new patient exam. We do the x-rays, the doctor does the exam, we come up with a treatment plan that this patient needs. And I tell this patient, well, you need a crown on tooth number 30. And they're like, sure, when can we book the appointment? When can we start? And I say, okay, well, I can give you an appointment for, let's say, tomorrow. Make sure that you eat before you come in because you will be here at least 2.5 hours. Always tell them that. So I always educated my patients about treatment times because sometimes they've never had a crown before. They don't know how long the procedure takes. So if they come in and they think they're going to be in and out in 30 minutes and then it's been 2 hours and they're still sitting in your chair, what do you think is going to happen? What happens when you've been sitting or laying down for a long time, especially at the dentist, because some people don't even want to be there?
Yeah, well, the patient's gonna get, irritated, uncomfortable, and they're gonna want to leave.
Correct. They get irritated. They don't want to be there. They don't want to finish. It's going to be difficult for you to finish your treatment. Okay. So protect the appointment book from eyes of others. This is private information. You should never leave the appointment book open to where other patients can see it. You know how now, I don't know about now. I don't know how long they've been doing it, but I've been seeing this more lately. When you go to a doctor's appointment and they have the sign-in sheet with the stickers and you sign in, put your appointment time you got there, who you're going to see, and as soon as they check you in, they rip the sticker off or they cross it out with a Sharpie or etc. It's so other people can't see it, because then they'll know your information, especially if you're writing down your phone number or your email address, etc. on there. Okay, additional considerations for scheduling. New patients, schedule them as soon as possible after they call. Sometimes that, depending on how busy your office is, sometimes that's not possible. Sometimes patients call and they're like, oh, can I make an appointment for next week? But then you're booked 3 weeks out. Okay, so you have to try to accommodate the patient if possible. Scheduling for the dental hygienist. Work out a list of average times required for certain types of hygiene visits. So that's something that you would have to talk to the hygienist about, because a deep cleaning sometimes takes 45 minutes to an hour. A regular cleaning can take 20 minutes. So that's something that you have to discuss, how she wants her patient scheduled for each type of cleaning. Recall patients and children. Younger children should be scheduled in the morning. School breaks are also a good time for appointments. Okay, why should younger children be scheduled in the morning? Anybody? What usually happens?
Because they are in the better attitude. They're not
Yes,
tired. They're grumpy. They had a better attitude. They're loving.
exactly. They're already rested. They're up. They're energized for the day. When you schedule kids at the end of the day after they've been in school all day, you pick them up. They're tired. They're cranky. They want a snack. They want a nap. And most of the time, it makes it a lot more difficult to get through procedures with them. Additional considerations for scheduling. Emergency patients, see them as quickly as possible using buffer time. So if a patient comes in, they're like, oh, my tooth is really hurting me. I can't sleep for the past 3 days. My face is swollen, etc. You're not going to be like, well, I can give you an appointment for next week. No, you have to have availability on your schedule to be able to squeeze that patient in to be seen then, at that day.
What about when they say they have an emergency, that they're hurt and stuff, and they start, oh, I can do that time. Can you make me an appointment for a few days after?
Listen,
No,
you will get patients like that. You will
but
get patients like that, but then you will get the patients that they want to be seen like right now. And some, depending on how your office works, you have to let them know, well, we can squeeze you in, but you will be seen in between patients that already have appointments, because we have to be considerate for those patients. So we don't turn them away, but sometimes you will get the patients that say, oh, well, I can't, how long is going to be the wait? If it's going to be an hour or 2 hours, I can't wait. Just make me an appointment. So that depends on your office, protocol, how you guys will work that out. Okay, so
so when
scheduling.
it's an emergency, oh, I'm sorry
Uh-huh.
to interrupt you,
No,
but
go
when
ahead.
it is an emergency, what I was going to ask, is I know we have to be the dentist who prescribe the medication, but
Correct.
how long, how are we going to know, depending on the emergency, the time for the appointment, like how long will it take? Or the emergency usually is scheduled maybe and set time, maybe 30 minutes, 40 minutes or so.
That's
I,
hard. That's hard to tell, because it depends in the office. Like when where I used to work at, when we used to get emergency patients, we would always tell them, we can see you today, but it might not be at this moment. The wait can be an hour, 2 hours, because we have to squeeze them in between the other patients. We have to be considerate to the patients that already had appointments. We just can't stop seeing the patients that have appointments to see the emergency. So that's the problem. That's the problem with that. Sometimes depending on how fast the assistants work, the emergency can be seen in 20 minutes. But sometimes if they came in at a point in time, like during the middle of the day where it gets really busy, sometimes they'll be waiting there for 2 hours or more. It depends on the office.
Okay, so if we don't have the time available, like maybe more than 30 minutes, we just left them waiting.
You have to let the patient know beforehand, because you're not gonna, you can't have them waiting 4 hours. That's not being considerate either. But like I said, it depends on where you work and what their protocol is with that.
And that would be also if the patient calls or show off at the office, right?
Correct. Where I used to work at, if the patient called on the phone saying that they had an emergency, we did not schedule appointments for that. We have to tell them, you have to come in, you have to walk in. When the patients walked in, then we will squeeze them into the schedule that day. But we would not make emergency appointments over the phone. That was just our office protocol. That's just how our office worked. Okay. So
okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Scheduling an appointment series. Must know how many appointments will be required. So if you're having a person, let's say you got a person that needs 15 fillings, okay? That person needs to know that how many appointments they're going to need. Because sometimes, depending on where their fillings are, if they're right next to each other, the dentist, depending on the day or how their schedule is looking, they can do up to 3 or 4 fillings in one sitting if it's all consecutive teeth, or if it's in the same quadrant. Okay. How long will each appointment take? Going back to when you have to teach your patient about their treatment, when I used to tell them, well, it's a crown, it can take anywhere from 2 to 2.5 hours. So you have to let them know that how long is the appointment going to take, so that they're aware of this beforehand. How many laboratory working days must be allowed between appointments? So let's say a patient comes in for a crown or a bridge. Usually after that first initial appointment, it would be 3 weeks before we even brought the patient back in, because that's how long it would take the lab for us to send the case out to the lab, for the lab to fabricate our bridge or our crown and send it back. It would take more or less about 3 weeks. So that's when we would schedule the next appointment for that patient. Okay, scheduling for the expanded functions dental assistant. Okay, so when scheduling for an expanded functions dental assistant, entries in the appointment book are made by the chair. To do this, a separate appointment book column is designated for each operatory. Appointments must be planned so that only one patient is scheduled per chair and per expanded functions assistant. So usually, I'm not sure how that works. I've never seen that before, but like I said before, each doctor that worked at the office where I worked at, they had 4 assistants, and each assistant would have 1 patient. They would just go to the front, they would grab the first chart that was in the bin, they would call that patient back, that would be their patient until the appointment was over. They wouldn't see 2 patients at a time, it would just be the 1 patient until they're done with that, and then they'll come get the next patient. Okay, confirmation of appointments. Confirm all appointments by telephone the day before the appointment. Confirmation prevents many cancellations far enough in advance to allow for the time to be used effectively. So sometimes offices will do that. They'll confirm the appointments the day before, but there are offices that will confirm the appointment with at least 48-hour notice, because if they have to cancel, they can find time to fit another patient in that slot. Patient circumstances. Late patients. An office that consistently runs late is disrespectful of its patient's time. And if the office is consistently running late, It means that it's poor scheduling. Okay. Canceled appointments. If a patient has not appeared within 10 minutes of the appointment time, the patient should be contacted immediately. And yes, usually you will see that. If the appointment was confirmed the day before and it's been like 10 or 15 minutes after the appointment time and the patient still hasn't shown up, they'll get a phone call to see if they're going to show up or not, so they can be taken off the schedule or marked as missed, cancel, or etc. Short notice.
And what about if the patient haven't, I'm sorry, if the patient haven't confirmed the day before, will us still wait the 10 minutes for them to arrive or just go ahead with the next patient?
So usually, if you never know, because sometimes even if the patient didn't confirm if they're coming or not, they might show up. So you have to leave that person on the schedule just in case they do show up. Now, if it's been 10 to 15 minutes after the appointment time and they haven't called to say that they're running late, etc., more than likely it means that they're not going to show up. And then that's when, office protocol comes. Some offices, if you don't give 24-hour notice cancellation that you're not going to make the appointment, they'll charge you like $25 or whatever it is, but that depends on where you work. Short notice appointments. It is to the office's advantage to maintain a list of patients who are available to take an appointment on short notice. So let's say you have a patient that comes in, they've had a day, or even if they haven't had treatment day, let's say they just came in for their first time, they had their exam and their cleaning done, and they have to come back for a filling, let's say. And then you tell them, they're like, oh, I want to come in next week. And then you're like, oh, we don't have anything available for fillings next week. Our next appointment is 2 weeks out. And they say, fine, give me the appointment for 2 weeks. But if you have any cancellation, call me and I can be here in 30 minutes. That's what a short notice appointment is. So you keep a list of those patients. So in case you have any cancellations during the day or the day before, you'll call in those patients and then you know that you're able to fill that time slot on the schedule. Daily treatment area schedule. Appointment book information for the next day is transferred to the daily schedule form. A sufficient number of copies are printed or posted electronically so that it can be posted in each treatment area away from the patient's view, the laboratory, and the dentist's private office. So this is basically just a copy of the schedule. So if your doctor has a coordinator, and a coordinator means that that person works only with that doctor at the front desk. They schedule only that doctor's appointments, their productions. They take care of that doctor's patients, and they take care of that doctor's claims. Okay, what they do is every day in the morning they'll print out the daily schedule, the schedule for the day with all the appointments, and they'll put it. Let's say they'll put it inside a cabinet of one of the operatories or each operatory so that it's visible for the assistant. They'll give one and they'll put it on the doctor's desk, and the doctor, when they come in, they can look at it and then see what they have going on for the day. Okay, so this list is updated throughout the day as changes are made in the schedule. So a check mark is placed to the left of the patient's name when the appointment has been confirmed. A circle around the time indicates that the appointment has not been confirmed. And this is basically personal preference. If you do the electronic scheduling, it'll color code. Like if it's confirmed, it's going to be like might be light green. If it's canceled, it might be red and it will have like an X on the side of it, etc. Okay, so if a patient does not keep an appointment, where should this information be recorded? Anybody know?
If the patient have an appointment and
if they don't come to their appointment, if they miss it, where should you record that?
Record?
Yes, in the patient's record, usually in the patient's chart, you have put, patient missed appointment today, or etc. So you'll know, because sometimes patients will make it a habit to never come to their appointments. They'll call, they'll beg for an appointment. You give them the appointment, and then they'll miss it. Then you reschedule them, and then again they'll miss it, and it's a continuous pattern. So sometimes you have to make a note of that. Person never comes to their appointments, etc. So you know not to schedule them anymore.
Yes. And what about if the patient have been taking the medication, like a treatment to come to the appointment? What should we do? We need to reschedule two appointments, the one for the medication, another one for the treatment?
Usually what happens is if a patient needs to be pre-medicated, the prescription for the pre-medication needs to be given on the previous appointment. And then you need to give the patient directions of how they're going to take the medicine. So usually what they do is they have to take the medicine an hour before their appointment time. So if they come in and you ask them, did you pre-medicate?
If they don't come in, the person.
Oh,
the
no,
patient,
because you're not going to give the patient any medicine. That patient has already the prescription. They have to take it at home.
Yes, but we need to schedule another appointment to medicate that patient again.
If they miss the appointment?
Yes.
No. If once they call to reschedule the appointment, or you get in contact with the patient and you reschedule the appointment, you have to let them know again that they have to pre-medicate an hour before the appointment time. They cannot wait until they're at the office to medicate. They have to do it an hour before their appointment time. If they don't do it, then that patient cannot be seen.
Yes, and how the patient going to get the medication? Can
that medication, the prescription is given to them the previous appointment.
But if they miss the appointment and they're already taking the medication and they miss the appointment, we need to reschedule another appointment for the medication, for them to get the dentist to prescribe the patient the medication, right?
If they didn't come into that appointment, then there's no reason why they should have taken the medication if they already knew that they were going to miss that appointment. So they should still have that prescription. And sometimes those prescriptions can just can be called into the pharmacy by the doctor.
Okay. Right. Thank you.
Okay. So preventative recall programs. Regularly scheduled preventative care is important for a patient's dental health. There's types of recall systems. Continuing appointment system. The patient is given a specific appointment time and date for the next recall visit. So let's say if I came in today and today was my yearly checkup and cleaning, and let's say in 6 months I need to get my other cleaning, usually they'll set up your appointment right then and there. But sometimes there's offices that their schedule is not open 6 months in advance. So they'll tell you, call us 2 months before or a month before you're due so we can schedule you. So a written recall notification, a recall card or postcard is mailed to remind the patient to return for continuing care. So sometimes you see these in the mailbox. You say so-and-so is due for their 6-month cleaning. Please contact the office so we can schedule you. And then recall by telephone. A list of the names and telephone numbers is maintained for the month. And then somebody will be in charge of calling each patient that's due. And I rarely see that happening unless it's a small office. Inventory management, okay? An adequate quantity of all necessary dental supplies is essential for the smooth functioning of the practice. An inventory system should be simple, readily workable, and kept up to date at all times. Of major concern are expendable and disposable items that are used up in a relatively short time and must be reordered regularly. Okay, so basically, sometimes doctors will have like a team lead or a head assistant, and that head assistant is going to be in charge of making the orders for the doctors, ordering supplies, etc. And what you need to do as an assistant is anytime that you need something or you're out of something, you need to let the head assistant know. But do not wait until you're completely out of something to say that you're out of something, because of course, when you place your order, you're going to have to wait for that order to get in. And usually it'll take a week, 2 weeks. And then what are you going to do in the meantime? So never wait till you're out of something to say that you're out of something. Maintain the following information for ordering a product. full brand name of the product, all applicable descriptive information, reorder point. So a reorder point is basically, let's say we have gauze, gauze, the cotton gauze that we put in the patient's mouth. Let's say our reorder point is when we have 1 pack left. And then at that point, you have to let whoever's in charge of doing the orders that we have only 1 pack left and we need to order more. So the purchase source, any necessary catalog numbers. Sometimes you'll make orders from a big fat dental book and you'll need to have the numbers in order for you to call the representative that does the orders, usually over the phone, and then you give them the catalog number and they know exactly what you need. Okay. Quantity purchase rates and reorder quantity. So quantity purchase rates just basically means what the price is for what you're ordering. If you order more, do you get a discount? If you order less, is it more money? Okay. And then the reorder quantity. Sometimes your office is pretty paced, so you always know how much of something you'll need, and because it'll be almost the same every month or however often you make your orders. A computerized inventory system. A computer software program that tracks inventory and creates an automated replenishment order. When an item is removed from inventory, the staff person scans the item using the barcode technology for dental supplies items. Rarely will you see this. Guidelines for ordering dental supplies. Supplies may be ordered through a dental supply sales representative. And sometimes you'll get a lot of reps come into the office. They want to talk to the office manager or they want to talk to the dentist, offering new products. They give samples, etc. From a catalog by telephone, fax, mail order, or barcode scanning. It is important to keep items in one central storage place. This eliminates the need to look through several places in the office to locate a needed product. Usually you will have some type of lab or a supply closet, and everything that you'll need will always be in there. So you don't have to look in this room and look in the other room and look here and look there. You'll know exactly what you have and exactly what you need. When ordering supplies, be prepared, have a want list ready, and check with the dentist. Sometimes there's stuff that your office currently doesn't have, but you might want it, whether it's some type of new technology or a new product that you want to try, etc. Be specific, know what you want and how much is needed. Be alert, be on the lookout for specials and authentic savings. Be informed, be alert for new products and ideas. Okay, and then back to the reorder point. So the reorder point for any given item is the minimum amount that represents an adequate reserve for that product. The reorder point is based on 2 factors: the rate of use of the product on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis, the lead time necessary to order and receive a new supply for this product. This time estimate should allow for delays in ordering or shipping or the possibility of back ordering. So you don't want to wait till you have 1 left of something to order because you don't know how long it's going to take for you to get more. Okay, that's what the reorder point is. Marking the reorder point. The reorder point should be clearly marked on the supply of that item. This task can be accomplished with reorder tags. Sometimes you won't have that, but it'll be known to the assistants that once we have this many left of this, we need to reorder. The reorder tag is attached to the minimum quantity of the item with a rubber band or a tape, or is placed into a stack of a flat product. When the reorder point is reached, this tag is removed and is processed immediately for reordering. Automatic shipments. Many suppliers offer dentists the advantage of bulk quantity pricing with automatic shipments of a portion of the total order. This ensures that the practice at a constant supply of the amount of a product necessary to meet their practice needs. So it's just like basically like if it was a subscription. Every month you'll get the item that you need at the quantity that you need, and you don't have to worry about always ordering because it'll just come in automatically. quantity purchase rate, a savings that can be attained by purchasing a product in larger quantities, so basically in bulk. The price break is the point at which the greater savings becomes effective. It also is necessary to take into consideration the available storage space in the office and the rate at which a product is used. So obviously what they mean is you're not going to buy 100 cases of gloves if you don't have anywhere to store them, okay? Just because you're going to get them cheaper. Okay, you're going to get them cheaper, well, where are you going to put them? That's the quantity purchase rate. Reorder quantity. The reorder quantity is determined by the rate of use, so how often is the product used, shelf life, when is the expiration date, and mind you, some dental products have a shelf life of a few years, okay? But you might use them sooner than that. Availability of storage space. Do you have room? Like I said before, you can order 100 cases of gloves, but where are you going to put it if you don't have the room to store it? Availability of proper storage conditions. Best quantity purchase rate. Is it a good buy? Investment involved. Do you have the cash flow? Of course, you have to have the money in order to buy your supplies. Or if you're going to order something new, you need to have the cash flow for it. And sometimes, if it's a private office, they will have a budget of how much they can order per month or however often they do their orders. Okay, back orders. So when an item is not available for delivery with the rest of an order, it is placed on back order and will be delivered as soon as it becomes available. And with a back order, you don't know when it's going to be available. So if sufficient lead time has been allowed, a back order does not create a major problem. If the item is in critically short supply, it may be necessary to purchase it elsewhere. In this case, to avoid duplication, the back order must be canceled. So like I said, don't wait till you just have one left in order to place an order, because you don't know how long it's going to take for you to get it, if you're even going to get it. Order exchange, return, or replacement. Sometimes it's necessary to exchange, return, or replace an order product. This can occur due to a variety of factors, including the wrong item was ordered, the right item was ordered, but the wrong shipped, the size, the color, or the quantity of the product was broken or damaged in the shipment. Okay. Requisitions and purchase orders. In a large group practice, institution, or clinic with a central supply source, dental supplies are obtained by requisition. The requisition form usually is completed in duplicate. One copy is submitted to procure the supplies, and the person who requests supplies returns the other copy. And that's just basically to make sure that when you get your order, everything that you ordered, everything on the list is what you actually get. In institutions with central purchasing, a requisition may be submitted to the purchasing agent, who in turn issues a purchase order. The dental supply budget, like I said, some offices have a budget for their orders. Consumables and disposables. Supplies that are used up as part of their function. Disposables are used once and then discarded. So the suction disposable, the bibs, the masks, gloves, all that stuff. Expendables. Materials of relatively low cost that are used up in a short time. Non-expendables. Smaller pieces of equipment or instruments that will eventually be replaced. And those can be hand pieces, the drills that the doctors use, and the Explorer, the hand mirror, and most of the dental instruments that the doctors use. You can use those for a period of time, but they'll get rusty, they'll bend, they'll break, etc., and eventually they will be replaced. And then major equipment, which are larger pieces of equipment that are costly to purchase and will depreciate. So basically, like X-ray, like the panoramic machine, that's major equipment. The if your office has digital X-rays, that stuff is major equipment, is expensive. Equipment repairs. When a new piece of equipment is purchased, the following information should be entered on a service record: the date of the purchase, the name of the supplier, expiration date of manufacturer's warranty, model, and serial numbers. Okay, and the warranty, a written statement that outlines the manufacturer's responsibility for replacing or repairing a piece of equipment over a limited time. So these warranties are usually for big equipments like the X-ray machines and the digital sensors and stuff like that. Service contracts. Some dental equipment is protected by a service contract. Under the terms of this contract, emergency repairs and possibly some routine maintenance are provided on a fixed fee basis. So basically what it means is, let's say I'm the person that gives service to the dental chairs. Okay, and I say you have to make a contract with me for $200 a year. And basically for those $200, I'll come in and I'll service your chair once a month, let's say, just to make sure that everything is running smoothly, and you won't have to pay me anything because you're already paying those $200 a year for me to give maintenance for your chair. Okay, so identify 3 ways that supplies can be ordered. Do you guys remember? How do you think you can place an order for your office? Anybody? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay. It's crickets over there. Okay, so supplies can be ordered through a sales rep, okay, by a catalog, or even on the internet, okay? All right, so service call. The expense of service calls is high because the cost is based on mileage, time, the expertise of the technician, and the materials and parts involved. So basically, when you do a service call, you have to be careful with those, because if it's something that you can fix yourself, you might as well fix it yourself, because sometimes people charge just for them to go to the office to look at something. They might charge $100, $150, and that's only just to go look. It doesn't include their labor, parts, time, etc. If a piece of equipment does not work, there are several points that can be checked before calling for a repair. Like I said, if it's something that you can fix, you might as well have to try to fix it yourself. If you must call for service, be prepared to give complete information available. They're going to ask you what's wrong with it, what is it doing, what is the model, what is the, etc. Everything. Okay. Anybody have any questions?
I don't at this moment.
No, just
Me
taking notes.
either.
No, just taking notes.